Everybody, has an update to the blog setup. First off, I will update you guys from the earlier post I did this morning on today's front. 76 now. We've had some haze and fog around the area. Visible satellite, just now able to get some of the images in the last frames. The sun's just now coming up across the area, but you can see mainly a hazy sky. So we'll see a mix of sun and clouds for the next, I would say, 4 to 5 hours. And then we'll see a new development of cloud cover as the showers and eventual thunderstorms begin to take shape on the radar. The front itself still across the I-70 corridor, way to our north. Really the best instability that's going to be ahead of this front today is going to be found in this general area, southern Kentucky into Tennessee. And there's very little wind energy with the front, so everything is displaced. In other words, so as when the front moves through, we're not concerned about severe weather because not everything's lined up right for that to happen. Could you get a gusty thunderstorm? Yeah, that's possible, but some of you will be hard-pressed to even get any rain out of this front. And this is bad news if you are in an area that has not had much rain at all as of late, because we're about to enter a good 6-day stretch, if not longer, of dry weather in our area. So hopefully you'll get something out of this front over the next 12 to 18 hours. Here's Futurecast. A couple of the high-res models. There's one of them showing the downpours breaking out around 3 or 4 o'clock today. Again, right ahead of the front when we begin to heat things up. Lightning, thunder, heavy downpours, very spotty nature, broken line basically, and some gusty winds, but at this point, severe threat again remains on the low side for the afternoon period. They will fade out through the evening period. There's another model showing the same deal as they begin to develop. I think we have a good chance to hit 90, by the way, before they pop on the radar. And then as we do the overnight, dry weather expected. The clouds will linger a bit, so maybe a brief shower or drizzle in our far southern counties through sunrise. It's not worth really mentioning for the morning forecast, as that dry air really will overtake the area. Breezy at times tomorrow. You can see that in the little striations, if you will, in the clouds here, even on the high-res model of the RPM, telling us how it's going to be a little breezy, that wind out of the north-northeast tomorrow. So a nice day, breezy, and comfortable as far as temperatures, too, generally into the 80s, but a lot of 70s even by that point. And then get ready for the cool weather as we head into the morning hours on Friday. Temperatures in the 50s, likely away from the city limits, and we'll likely do it again on Saturday. All right, as far as the tropics go, here is Tropical Depression number 9. This is our RPM model. To me, it looks to be a tropical storm. It's healthy enough looking, but they're going to wait one more round of data, I'm sure, and the next update, the full update, will be at 11 o'clock this morning. But they've already issued tropical storm warnings for the Big Bend area of Florida, so that already tells us they're going to upgrade here very, very soon. Brings it on. This is going to be tomorrow morning. It'll be approaching the Big Bend area. Now, watch what happens in RPM when it crosses Florida into Jacksonville by Friday. Almost gets an eye structure to it because this is a relatively flat area. Keep that in mind. The Panhandle area of Florida there in southeast Georgia, very low-lying area, so there's not any terrain that's going to tear the system up. And so it's only going to be on land for a very short period of time. Now, the question is, how far is it going to hug the coastline once it gets on the other side of Jacksonville? Is it going to go straight up Highway 17 through Charleston, or is it going to go offshore and tap in the Gulf Stream and get stronger, perhaps, as it moves away from the coastline? That still has to be sorted out because at this point, the structure looks really good as it's in the southeast corner of the country near Savannah, which, by the way, Savannah, I believe, has not had a hurricane, by the way, landfalling hurricane in more than 100 years. So unusual setup for that area. When you look at the wind forecast, same model, it does show up, begins to get some tropical storm force winds begin to show up as it enters the Big Bend area of Florida on Thursday. And then as we head into the Jacksonville area and into southeast Georgia on Friday morning, it's still showing tropical storm force winds, but that's going to be a high-end tropical storm force winds. This very well could turn into a low-end hurricane. But as we have said many times in tropic scenarios, it doesn't matter if it's a high-end tropical storm or a low-end Category 1 hurricane. The effects are the same. Flooding rain and strong winds. The flooding rain been a big problem since this is a low-lying area. Now, what is interesting about this particular system, and this is the Euro model, is what happens after we get past Friday. Because it will pass along the southeast coast. The Euro does take it out, a lot of the models do in fact, out to sea, only for a limited amount of time. And then it runs into a blocking pattern and gets pulled backwards toward New York or even Boston. Still a big question mark how strong it will be at that point and whether or not it will make landfall. But wouldn't that be a wild scenario of it going through Florida and then making a U-turn and then coming back and making a second deal as far as landfall into the northeast part of the United States? I'm sure that'll be trending like crazy on social media in the coming days. Still early. We'll see how it plays out. Now, what about us? it's really hard to explain our scenario when we have that kind of a setup with the tropics, because when you have, this is the Euro ensemble, by the way, for next week, you see how it, even ensembles show it going back to the United States. But anytime you do that, you pull energy that strong north, you're going to eventually get an opposite effect that's going to happen. So this will likely pull down a deep trough back into our area. In between stage of that happening, we will heat up. We'll see that on Labor Day. We'll get close to 90. I think we're talking about lower 90s as the system is getting pulled toward the United States. But if it does indeed backtrack and get pulled into the northeast part of the country, we will likely see another trough move in right behind that, which will set us up for the following weekend. And then ensembles do show the pattern dipping downward. Just how much of a dip, again, we don't know yet. It all depends on the tropics. The other models on the same idea for the last, I would say, frames here. This is about the 10th to the 15th of September. Here's the GFS, here's Canadian, and here is the, that's Canadian, this is the Euro. All generally show that a trough will move in. Now, the actual run of the GFS is a little more dramatic with that pull down effect, but I can certainly see it happening. So a little bit of question mark on between the 10th and 15th of the month, how cool we can get with that second dip. The first dip that's coming in this weekend, though, is going to arrive and is going to feel great. It's just we've got to figure out the tropics, and we'll go from there. All right, that's it, guys. Christy will have more today on midday, and Kevin and Ryan will have more today beginning at 5 o'clock. See you then.